the start of your career, or like where you kind of started becoming into yourself, and then all the way to like where you're at now?
Okay. I grew up in a very small town, just north of Columbus, 6 miles outside of a town called Richwood, Ohio. So in between kind of a bean field and a cornfield is sort of where my brother and I grew up. So we were very close. We had to entertain ourselves a lot. We always had friends coming over and such. So it was always like the place to hang out and be. My parents owned a few small businesses, one of them being a car dealership. And my brother and I had an office basically there growing up. And if we were there before or after school, we were expected to greet people, say hello, have a conversation with them, and just be kind of like a little sales crew, I guess. So very early on in age, I kind of became someone who could talk to people, meet them where they are, and feel not shy. And maybe that's because I'm a Leo. And you asked when I was born or something like that.
Yes.
But tie it back.
When's your birthday?
July 23rd.
Okay, I'm August 18th.
Oh, wow. I don't really follow that stuff.
We can use that.
I'm August 4th.
Oh, it's a crew of Leos here today.
Make sure to use us barking at each other. It's like the fun part of this.
Well, then do it again. I got her off here. Do it.
I was involved in a ton of activities and sports growing up because I went to a small school, so it's like Rushmore. You could be the president of anything, I think, if you wanted to participate. Like I was on the guys' golf team kind of thing. Okay. So went to Miami University for undergrad. Ohio State was a little too close to home, despite my father's best efforts of being a huge Ohio State fan. Got very involved there, student government, sorority, college political organization, etc., and shrunk that campus down to a size that felt like a small town again. Mm-hmm. And from there, I went to DC. I worked there on and off for about 7 years, started out in government affairs, and then got into nonprofit fundraising. And I think that is probably something that's applicable to our conversation today.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so give us the lowdown on what you do today. Like what all does it entail? Mm-hmm. Tell us about your current role.
Okay. I work at the Ohio State University, and I'm in principal gift fundraising. So our office is a central office for the foundation, and we work with units across the university to help them bring in gifts of $5 million or more.
Wow. And how does one go about getting $5 million checks into their organization?
No gift is the same, no donor is the same, and it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
And that's the crux of, I would say, my entire career.
Yeah. So if you can break down maybe some interesting examples or like career defining moments, or I mean, that's a lot, like for any organization to bring in a $5 million check. Mm-hmm. Is there any like standout moments that you've had in those efforts?
Well, I thought I was going to be a lobbyist forever. That was all I wanted to do. I was an intern in college at a lobbying firm here in Columbus, the Success Group. I'm still friends with the gentleman who hired me there, who is still kind of a mentor, but more of a friend to this day. And that's what I wanted to do. Went to DC, started working in government affairs in the program network policy space of cable programming. What is that? Well, somewhere Playboy and ESPN and Nickelodeon and HBO all have similar legislative interests. And at the end of the day, they really don't want to regulate what you're bringing into your home via them because you're a paying subscriber. Mm-hmm. So around that time as well, Janet Jackson revealed her left nipple to the world. And suddenly, my job that I thought was just, that I was just grooving, I was happy, I was in a flow, became very, very difficult. I was working very long hours, etc. This isn't what I wanted to do forever. And I was seeing my boss, who had a limited bandwidth with her own family. And like, this isn't what I want my future to be. So I started talking to people about what they do and why they like it. I'm just being really curious. And around that time, I was in a conversation with my housemate at the time. Her grandmother, she owned a PR firm in DC, and they were just hired to do the fundraising for the Pentagon Memorial Fund. And that's the memorial at the Pentagon for all the lives lost on 9/11. She's like, Kelly, I think with your skill set, you'd be really good at this. I'm like, Linda, I can't ask my father for money. And she's like, well, just come work for me. It's what you did in grad school. If you hate it, I'll make sure you're always out in time for school in the evening, etc. I'm like, okay. And within 6 weeks, I want to do this forever. So I don't think anyone grows up wanting to be a fundraiser.
Yeah.
You just find an odd path there.
Yeah. Is there a certain selling style that you think does well in that? Like, tell me about the skill sets. Like, what do you need to be like in order to be successful with what you do?
There are a lot of fundraisers I know who are very successful that are entirely different people.
Uh-huh.
I think common traits would be you're a good listener. You're willing to ask a lot of questions. I could tell stories all day long. I love telling stories. I love connecting people. You need to be able to connect people, but they're not there to listen to me talk. They're here for me to listen, to hear what they care about, and connect them to what they can make a difference in supporting.
Totally.
So
How do you go about, so this is like very kind of like sales oriented stuff, right? Which is like what I do for a living.
Okay.
So I'm very curious to hear what's working for you. Mm-hmm. How do you go about your top of funnel? Like, how do you get new introductions to these high net worth individuals?
Are you talking about in terms of our prospecting process, or
Yeah,
just
like,
getting in front of them, or
yeah.
what do you?
So top of funnel to me is like where does the conversation start that leads to the sale? Where is that working for you? Like, how are you meeting these people? How are you getting in front of them initially?
Okay. We use a ton of different paths to do that. When we have a lot of different doorways at the university that we can pull levers here and there. Me being the person to open that door is a fraction of what that happens. Or a development officer in one of the units being the person to pull that lever, fraction of what happens. We can utilize leadership. We can utilize events. We can utilize our athletics program. Exactly. So look at what people care about.
Yeah.
And provide them an opportunity. Is it someone whom you'd want to get advice for? People are really apt to give advice.
Yeah, 100%.
Just ask them for their advice. If they're someone you could chronicle, we use our comms team to tell stories. And so we can talk about the business they've built, and then that opens up the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk to them about maybe speaking with our students.
Totally.
And maybe then talking to us about how they'd like to support us in the future.
I love it.
And never being shy about what we do as fundraisers, and asking them about how they feel about philanthropy and where Ohio State builds into their philanthropic interests, because we're not for everybody, but hopefully we're for most of them.
Yeah, totally. What do you think is like works best for closing deals? Like, is there a certain tactic, strategy, approach that you take for ultimately closing a deal?
Personalization.
Mm-hmm.
What motivates them?
Yeah.
Work that into it all.
Yeah, 100%. Tell me about what's the most rewarding thing that you've been through in your career besides this conversation?
It's today. I peak every day, and then I start again.
Let's go.
Couple of things. I would say just from a put an idea out into the world and then it comes to fruition standpoint. When I was 16, actually almost 16, I was 15. I was with my grandmother in London, and we were standing in Piccadilly Circus right after we left theater, and I was looking around, and I hadn't even been in New York City at this point, and it's kind of like the Times Square of London. And I looked around like, I'm going to live here when I grow up. I didn't put a lot of thought into that. Flash forward a couple years later, meaning more like 20, I'm living and working in Denver, and got a call from a recruiter about a job opportunity in London, and I moved there a few months later. Wow. So I had the opportunity to work internationally, which if you have the opportunity, I would encourage anyone to explore that, or even if it's just traveling as much as you can, or if it's studying abroad, but any opportunity to open up your worldview, take it.
Yeah. So, what was that like in London?
It's amazing.
Like, tell me stories.
Yeah. It was the first time I had to get comfortable with being alone. I'm a very social creature, but it's a city where you can meet someone and get on with them real well, but they live an hour and a half across the city, so you're not going to see them all the time, or you can just hang out kind of thing.
Yeah.
I live in German Village. It's like Sesame Street. I see my friends all the time.
Yeah.
And this was not that. So I had to learn to just really be present with myself. What makes me happy? Okay. And I became more regimented in my workout routine. I realized everyone I work with knows the small village their family came from. I didn't know where my family came from. We've just been in the United States a whole long time. Got involved with Ancestry.com and tracked down my heritage. Just found creative ways to stay connected with the people who do matter most in my life, but also really got comfortable with being with just me.
Yeah.
And that was a huge turning point.
Yeah, I love that. What's the most challenging thing you've been through in your career?
That's a really great question. I think every time somebody asks me, I look at it in a different lens because there's new challenges coming up all the time.
Sure.
So when I was living in London, I moved back to the United States and they asked me to start their North American advancement program. So I did that out of Columbus, traveled a lot. I really liked it. I was going back to London frequently, so it was like best of both worlds. I was home, but I was also there. But a little thing called Brexit caused some uncertainty in the world, and they weren't quite sure they could keep a contractor on. So they came to me like, in 6 months, you either have to move back here or you need to find a new job. And I had never been in a place where somebody else told me, like, you've got to find something else. And that was really scary and uncomfortable. But it was nice to have the heads up.
Mm-hmm.
But I went back to that same exercise I did earlier in my career of talking to people about what they do, seeing where the opportunities were, and just being really curious again. And when I first left, I worked at Ohio State at one point and left to move to Colorado for a job. And when I left in my exit interview, they asked, would you ever come back? And I said, yeah, for a job in principal gifts. I had an opportunity to work with that team while I had been on the Med Center team, really liked that level of work.
Yeah.
And I kept in touch with the recruiter. So she actually called me about the job, and it aligned in the timeline of me looking for something new, et cetera. So I think it's keeping in touch with people, being curious, asking questions, and just not allowing a reframe of your current situation to allow you to think that that's a hard wall.
100%. Is there any other core principle, because I've heard you say those few things a couple of times now, is there any other core principles of advice that you've learned along the way?
It's never about you. It's about how you make people feel.
Yeah, 100%.
So like I worry a lot about like the people around me and how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Like that is something that the Enneagram thing, you really get into that. Like that's one of my strengths, but also something it's constantly on my mind. So
totally.
If my team's stressed out and people around me are stressed out, I want to like help smooth that out and listen to them, etc.
Yeah, I love it. Volunteer therapist.
Oof, nobody wants that job.
Yeah. You've got a picture of somebody here.
Yeah.
Can you pull that up?
Of course.
Give a shout out to.
This is Barbara. She passed away sadly last year. And a very young and awkward Kelly Mills, who was the same height but roughly 50 pounds lighter. Very scrappy bird-like girl at her 6th grade confirmation. And Barbara.
And this was your first mentor?
Yes. So
what did she instill in you? Will you pull that up to the camera?
Oh, okay.
A little B-roll action.
Okay. So Barbara, when we were going through confirmation at our church, we were asked to pick an elder in the church, and that could be, one of your parents' friends or something like that, to be your sponsor/mentor through the process. And you were supposed to meet with them a couple times and talk about their faith, etc. And I took this very seriously and was thinking about all the people in our church. And most of my friends, they picked somebody who was, our parents' age group, someone who they knew fairly well. But I looked at Barbara, who in our small town community was a true leader. Mm-hmm. And Barbara did things that men did. She was the president of the school board. And she, was very active in our church community. She was a leader. I saw her fundraising for the local library. I saw her meeting with my father and other business leaders to get things done. There were school levies going on, and she was very active in that process to really advocate for the fact that our schools needed this funding. And it was like, I want to be a woman like that.
I love it.
And she also had a great family, and I was close with her family. So I was like, that's the kind of person I want to be around. And Barbara and our friendship didn't stop at 6th grade. It continued throughout high school. And then I went off to college. I remember coming back after my freshman year, and she would have coffee or lunch. And I was very worried about telling her I joined a sorority. She thought she would judge me. And she said, well, which one did you join? And I told her Kappa Gamma, and she gave me the handshake because she was a Kappa. So she became my sorority sister, and we just had a lifelong friendship. We would trade, I'd send her flowers on her birthday, or we'd trade emails and letters, and she passed away just about a year ago.
What'd she pass from?
A very long, well-lived life.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to say farewell to her in the same church. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. What would you tell yourself 20 years ago today?
So 20 years today was, 2006?
I think
it's about the same time I made my career pivot to advancement. So that's exciting. I never really thought I'd leave DC. So the fact that I left DC, went to Columbus, went to Denver, went to London, I'm back in Columbus, which I never really expected to be back here either. It's just like, go with the journey.
Yeah.
say yes. If it's a maybe, say no.
Yeah.
But like anything you're curious about, dive in.
Yeah.
Don't make an excuse. Don't think about all the what ifs. Just like go for it.
I love it. Last question for you. So you've been to at least a couple of our events.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of mentees, young people, folks looking for advice. One thing that we found really valuable is us actually getting hard feedback. What hard feedback do you have for the next generation, the Gen Zs, the millennials?
Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So many times, if you just pick up the phone, the problem's solved. And the text message goes unread. The emails, I spend hours a day, I think, deleting emails. Just things I don't want. Stand out or send something in the mail. My dream job is to be the Postmaster General of the United States. I'm just putting that out there because I would be General Mills. And I love mail.
Manifest that shit.
Yes, somebody watching this, right? All 25 of you. So anyway, I send handwritten notes. Tell people what you appreciated about them. Do the follow-up. Don't just get the card or the V card or whatever. Like actually take that next step because so few people do. It's easy to go to the event, shake a few hands, ask people what they do, but nobody follows up really.
Totally.
So follow up.
I love it. Any other last words?
The sun just came out in Columbus, Ohio, and it's February, so we should probably be outside.
Facts.
And I look forward to attending future events because they're always fun. And I always meet someone who I really enjoy. And this feels like a small town a lot.
It
But I
does.
feel like you're always
Biggest small town in America.
Yes, but it's also the friendliest.
Yes.
And I would say one of the best things about living here is when my friends from other places visit. So I'm like, it really is Sesame Street.
Yeah.
They're all so happy and friendly. And we're very fortunate to live and work here.
100%. Well, thank you so
Thanks
much.
for being part of it.
Yeah, I
Appreciate
appreciate you. Thank you.